Hi, welcome back to CS170. Let's see if we can continue on with this recording on Zoom. So we're doing spreadsheets this week in week 9. So let me see, we're on chapter 13. So there's going to be a basic introduction to spreadsheets. We're going to cover like various ways of doing math on here, which will match up to some of the work you're going to be doing on your assignment. Difference between workbook and worksheets, relative and absolute cell references, formulas, cell ranges, doing various types of operations. These are different functions. So we'll see where we can get to on this. Okay. And there's also some other continuation of this, doing if statements, VLOOKUPs, present value on different things. Let's say you're doing a mortgage or something, subtotal, using logical and or not, statistical functions. So a lot of stuff to cover when it comes to spreadsheets, but these things are fairly well documented. So hopefully we should be able to get through these. We have a lot of links that are on the resources that you can get to. Obviously, Excel is a very popular product. It's very commonly used in business. So you'll be able to look up any of these functions. These are not obscure things. So there's plenty of documentation out there. But let's see where we can get to for this video. Okay, some more topics here that we'll be getting to, and even more topics. So there's a lot of stuff here. Obviously, I'm not going to cover all of this in this one video. So let's see where we're going to go to. All right. And there's a point here about why use Excel. We have various types of financial information. I think when you look at the earliest personal computer usage, Excel or spreadsheets in general, Excel didn't exist back then, but spreadsheets in general were very popular, right? A lot of times people are doing all kinds of different analysis, whether it's your household budget, corporate budget, whatnot, all kinds of financials that you can crunch through, slicing and dicing it, doing various types of models to project things. Another common thing is tracking inventory. So obviously, there's a lot of inventory management system these days, so you don't really scale too well if you do everything on Excel, but for small scale usage, yeah, it's probably okay. You can do some inventory, and there are techniques that you can do to try to maintain the data integrity, right? So a lot of times when you're doing these Excel spreadsheets, the reason why they break down at scale is because you just lose track. You're trying to reconcile one sheet versus another. You have details versus summary. Something is missing, all kinds of stuff like that. But there are techniques you can do to try to do cross checks and whatnot, and try to maintain some sort of control on these things. But you know, that's the cost of doing stuff with Excel up to a certain scale. Beyond that, you might be using a more proper application that has all the proper controls on the data. Operational statistics, schedules, project plans. When they talk about graphically displaying information, there's the stuff that comes with Excel in terms of like, you know, pie charts or whatever. And then there's other things where you can take the data out, and there's more sophisticated like graphic displays you can get from it. Okay. And then there's what if scenarios, right? There's some that comes built in with Excel. There's others that people just kind of build out themselves, right? So you can punch in like different types of parameters and see what comes out. What happens if you double your revenue? What happens if you lose half your revenue? You know, what does that mean for your profitability, let's say? Okay. Yeah, again, it's just more talking about like, you know, the usage of Excel, why, or spreadsheets in general, why are they valuable? Okay. So here's like a sample type of thing you can imagine. Here we got like different types of items, right? We got shoes, scarf, shirt, pants. We have the different prices for them. This is our quantity of what we have in stock. And it's multiplying based off of that, right, for the total price, right? And then you can have like some discounts off of that. And then you can calculate tax off of that. And then you have a total due on it, okay? So you can imagine in all kinds of different types of like sales type of scenarios that you'll be doing stuff like this, right? You could say, well, this is my inventory. I want to run like a sale for this month. What kind of sale do I want to run? Maybe there's some items that I want to move. I want to, push those out quickly. Maybe I need to file my sales tax for the month or something. So I'll have all my inventory, what my sales were, what my sales tax was, and then just pull that together, and I could file my sales tax for the month, let's say. Okay. Here, they're talking about different things. You can do like bold, you can wrap your text, you can expand your column width, you can set your cell entries into like these different types of formats here. So I have an Excel sheet. So let me just crank out a couple here. Let's see what we can do here. So like this is a task, right? One thing you'll notice here, I can go up here, I can double click, and you see it makes the size of the column to totally match up to like the size here, right? So let me do that again. So I come here, double click on it, you got that, right? If I want to bold it, this bolds it. Obviously it makes it bold, it kind of makes things a little bit wider. So then that's why I kind of pushed it out here. So then I just double click and make it wide again, okay? Let's take a look at some numbers here. So let's say I do like 45 or 34, something like that. You can look up here, and by the way, this is on the home right here. And here you see your numbers here. Actually, let me make this an even bigger number so I can play around some other stuff. All right, so I just jammed the number in here, right? And I can come over to here. Let's say I want some commas, right? That kind of makes it a little bit more readable, right? And instead of seeing a whole bunch of numbers there. And you can actually see here that I've actually got this rounding to 2 decimal places, but let me go this way. This makes it all the way down to nothing, right? But I can go the other way too. All right, you see what happens there? Okay, so I'm going this way, takes it down, and then as I expand it out, you can see what happens to the numbers here. It gets rounded when I start to like make it smaller, okay, or less decimal places, I should say. If I want to make this into a dollar sign currency, let's say, I would just click on this, and you see automatically what happens here. This takes it to 2 decimal places, right? Because it doesn't make sense for you to have like 3 decimal places when it comes to currency. You have the little dollar sign here, and it looks like a proper dollar amount here, okay? So different types of things you can play around here. Here, and you can see there's things here related to if you want to do things as percentages, you want to do things as currency, time, all kinds of stuff like that. Let's say I do this. Let's say I do 0.45, 67, right? So you recognize that for what it is, right? It's basically, a couple of decimals here, right? But now let's say what happens if I want to format this and I look at this in terms of percentage. And you see what happened here, right? So you think of it, when I say percentage, that's essentially saying that I'm taking it and multiplying it by 100, right? Like that. You remember what I had before, right? So I had the 0.45. Let me just flip this back out from percentage. I'm going to just go back to, let's just say number here. Now you see what happened, right? 0.45, 0.67. I go to make it a percentage. By me putting a percentage there, it basically multiplied it out by 100 to shift it out, Okay, so you say 45% is the same thing as 0.45, right? This is in terms of like talking about from Excel terms, right? So if you see something like this, if you want to think about it in terms of like, how am I actually doing the calculation? You're essentially saying I'm multiplying it by 0.45, right? This is almost just like a visual presentation for like a user looking at this. Okay, so I hope that's kind of clear there. So 45%, if I actually want to do a calculation, let's say I want to take 45% 100. So I do equals 100 times 45%, and you get 45. Okay, so that's how you read it. If I'm going to be doing this with the percentage sign there, that's really just a display thing. In reality, you're dealing with 0.45. Okay, so hopefully that point is clear. You can play around with the dates here, right? So let's say I was doing like 1/15, 2014, and let's see what kind of dates I can do here. We can do a short date. I can do that. Long date kind of blows everything out like that. So again, something else you can play around with. Now in Excel, when you're doing like calculations and whatnot, I kind of think it's best for you to look at a date. Let's say I do 1/15, 14. I'm actually going to cover this later on in another lecture, but let's say I'm going to do something here, like, so equal basically says I'm going to do a formula, right? And then I can do like a date value of this, right? And look at that. Then I close it off. Oops. This is already set as a date. Let's say I set this to, oops, that's not what I wanted. General. Why is it doing that? I'm going to make that to be a date here. All right. So I just jumped through some gyrations here to do this date value thing, right? And I put this little quote here to make this into a string. Okay. So a lot of times when you get some data, you look at it, it looks like a date, but it may not be a date. So you can kind of look at it as like a string here. And then later on, you want to do some calculation. You want to treat it as a date. You would do something like this with this date value here. Okay. So let me see here, spreadsheet operations. So you saw what I did with changing the column. That was this, right? I can do this. I can do the same things on the row here too, right? So I can do stuff like that. So you can do cut, copy, and paste content. So that's similar to like when you do stuff on any of the other Microsoft applications, right? So when you're doing Word or whatever, you can do that, right? So let's say I have something like that. I can do this, right? And you can see all your choices here, right? Cut, copy, paste. Let me just copy and then paste it here. You can see all these different choices here. Right. For now, I'll just paste it as is because this is just a simple number. But later on, when you start doing stuff with like formulas and whatnot, you may not want to copy the formula. So then you might just want to copy the values. But I'm just going to copy this. And there you go. It's just a copy. All right. And so likewise, you want to do a cut. I can do cut and then I can paste it like that. Right, later on when you get good with this stuff, you can just use like keyboard shortcuts and whatnot. But for this class, I think we can just do that. Okay, we just covered formatting, clear cells, right? Delete rows and columns, insert, right? So I can do this. I can do a delete, and I just took out the whole thing, right? Same thing on the row, right? I can do this. Let me do this here. I can delete it and boom. Okay. What else do we have here? Insert, delete. Yeah, so you want me to insert a column? I can do it. Insert column. So I can do this insert, and then you insert it. Okay. Yeah, so I think that covers all of it. I'm not going to step into the formulas. I'm going to cut a new video for the formula. So I'm going to stop here. See, where's my stop?